Good morning, everybody. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me the opportunity to make a point today with you about the sensory integration in ALS, which is particularly important for the homeostasis of the motor system. So maybe some of you remember that some years ago we have found, this was not expected, but we have found, thanks to a spinal cord MRI, diffusion MRI at the spinal cord level, we found alteration of the dorsal column, which transmits the sensory afferent input to the supraspinal structure. And we found a significant correlation between the structural alteration and the decrease of the peripheral somatosensory evoked potential N9 collected at the air point. So there was a strong correlation between the alteration of the matrix and the decrease in N9, but we didn't find any correlation with the earliest cortical component of SCP called N20, but N20 is also decreased in patient in about 1/3 of the patient. And together with Saina Sangari, we also investigate the different components of SCP, N9, etc., N20, etc. And what we found is that all components were depressed in patient compared to control group. And we found that the late component, above 40 milliseconds, were more depressed, were significantly more depressed as compared to earlier components. And based on this, and thanks to the literature review, we suggest that this greater depression of late SCP component, could be related to non-motor areas. But in fact, these results were obtained with only one EEG channel. And we found it important to confirm this result through using source imaging. And for that, we developed the SOMA-ALS protocol, which is a study based on which investigates the neuroimaging of brain sensory integration in ALS. And the detail on the protocol. And the main inclusion criteria for today is that the patient that have been included had no sensory sign according to the clinical evaluation, and they had no or very weak motor dysfunction in the hand we investigated. In fact, in most of them, the MRC score was 5. So today I will show you only the result on MEG. So in this study, in this protocol, we investigate the combined EEG and MEG during electrical stimulation applied to the ulnar nerve at different intensity between 1.5 and 9 times the perceptual threshold. The participants were asked to stay as relaxed as possible, fixing a cross in front of them. We could analyze the data in 23 controls and 26 patients, and as you can see, the two groups were matched. And according to the inclusion criteria, half part of the patients have been investigated within the first year after the first symptoms, and the median ALSFRS score was 40. So it's confirmed that they were only poorly affected at that time. So for those who don't know what is source imaging, so source imaging is based on EEG, MEG, magnetoencephalography or electroencephalography, EEG. And thanks to this, the sensitivity of this approach to electrical and magnetic field produced by the current produced in the brain, we can in fact investigate this current in the brain thanks to very complex algorithm. It is possible to localize and to estimate the density of current that is produced by the peripheral nerve stimulation. And you can see that we can project this current density on the brain. So this allowed to estimate quantitatively the density of cortical currents induced by the peripheral nerve stimulation. So here are the result of the group, only the MEG result. So this is the time series in the control group and the ALS group. You can see that we found 3 main components corresponding to the classical SCPs, I would say. And as you can see, we found again that on average, the density of current were less in patients as compared to controls. And this is the mapping in the middle part of the early component, of the intermediate component, and in the late component, as you can see on the images, the density of current was less in patients as compared to controls. And here are the statistical analysis. So first, we investigate the interaction between the group and the component. And as you can see, we found again, this was not significant, but we found again the tendency that the density of current produced at later latency are more depressed as compared to patient, to the early component. But it is more obvious when we compare the area where the current were collected, and we found a significant interaction with the area, showing that in fact the density of current in patients were particularly depressed at the level of the primary somatosensory area, S1, the primary motor cortex, M1, and the posterior singular cortex, PPC. We also compare the effect of intensity, and we find a significant interaction showing that the input-output relationship, I mean, the density of current produced in the brain cortex plotted against the intensity of the stimulation, you can see that in fact the difference was particularly observed at higher intensity above 3 pt. And when we cross all these factors, we found that, in fact, the difference, the depression of current density at the level of S1, M1, and PPC were particularly obvious at intensity above 3 pt. Then we wonder whether this alteration in current density could be related to structural alteration. And for that, we evaluate the cortical thickness, which is a method, MRI method, which allows to evaluate the density of white matter in the cortical ribbon. And as you can see, at the level of the 3 areas which are particularly affected, where there is a particularly decrease in the current density, there was no significant difference between groups. So we didn't find any evidence for a smaller cortical thickness at this level. So then we compare the proportion. So first we compare the proportion of patients with a significant decrease in current density. And as you can see, we found that between 70 and 80% the patient group found exhibited a decrease in the current density at the level of these 3 areas, and we didn't find any difference between these 3 areas. And when we compared the link with different clinical features, we found a significant difference between slow and faster progressor in the group, showing that in fact the depression of the current density was stronger in patients with the fastest progression. So to conclude, in fact, this results have shown that the density of cortical currents in response to peripheral nerve stimulation is decreased in ALS at latency above 30 milliseconds, which confirms that early and late components are differentially altered in ALS. This cortical dysfunction occurs primarily in the primary sensory motor cortex and also in non-motor area, which confirm our working hypothesis, and in particular in the posterior singular cortex, which mediate cortico-cortical interaction, which are particularly important for memory and decision making. Regarding the input-output relationship, so as you can see, we found it distorted in patient, and especially we didn't find the steep increase between 3 and 6 PT that we observe in controls. This might be due, but I can go back to that later, to the possibilities that peripheral afferent from muscle spindle might be particularly altered in ALS. And last, the current density is particularly altered in patients with the fastest progression. And our perspective is not to investigate the ipsilateral hemisphere, but as far as I've seen, there is no difference. And we also have to look to the EEG data. So last, you are the collaborators, and I'm happy to take your question now. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Very nice presentation, very interesting. Do you think that it could be, while you look at all the population you tested, you think it could be early or a late event, you know, because we can understand that when the disease is progressing, then it can, well, for instance, the substance nigra and striatum are systematically altered. And so do you think it could be an early event as well when you look at the people from the disease duration range?
In fact, we are doing experiment, not using MEG, but only EEG in pre-symptomatic patients. So okay. Give me some months and I will answer. But what I can tell you is that we, for now, we have tested three cohorts: Spine 1, Spine 2, and SOMA-ALS. And in SOMA-ALS and Spine 2, we investigate symptomatic patients. But in fact, the symptomatic patient in SOMA-ALS study were, from a clinical point of view, less affected that the patient in Spine 2. And in fact, it seems that in Spine 2, in the Spine 2 cohorts, we found, for example, the air point, the volley at the air point was depressed, but not in SOMA-ALS patients. So it seems that with the progression, there is an increase of the sensory defect, but this is something that has to be done using a longitudinal study.
And the cortical thickness is notoriously non-sensitive.
Ouais.
So, so I would go for, you know, like functional MRI or DTI, because then you can see something great there.
Ouais. Alors, sorry. Oui. Yes. But
Pierre-François has to work a little more, that's it.
No, but in fact, in this group of patients, we also investigate the brain atrophy. We looked at the diffusion, etc. And in fact, the brain of this patient looked quite similar to control. So from a structural point of view, there is no metrics that allow to tell us that there is something going wrong in the brain. But actually, according to the electrophysiology that I show you today, and we have also fMRI looking at the response to vibration. Yeah. We also have resting state. And from a functional point of view, there is a huge disturbance in the sensory motor.
So thank you, Flavien.